own introduction. All right. Hi, Jaideep. Good afternoon. My name is Rehat. I'll be taking your webinar this evening. Just for our audience here, just to introduce Jaideep a little bit. He's a graduate from the JGLS BA LLB batch of 2019, and he's later on become a lawyer in London itself. He's practicing lawyer in London now. Jaideep, if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit, please go ahead.
Thank you, Rahat, and very kind of you to introduce me. And I just want to thank the university for giving me this opportunity to speak to all of you. And it's been about 6 years since I've graduated. And yes, I mean broadly, my essential background has been that I was a law student at Jindal, and I graduated in 2019. And after that, I did about 3 years of litigation in New Delhi. And soon after, I went for my master's in Georgetown in DC. And I specialized in international arbitration. And during my time in DC, I did a small internship with an international arbitration firm in DC. After that, I flew to Dubai to start another 6 month internship with Freshfields. And after that, I came to London, and I've been in London for the last year to year and a half. And in London, I've essentially been practicing international arbitration as well. And since I'm planning to continue and stay on in the UK market, I qualified as a solicitor here. So my broad work, revolves around international disputes, and but most prominent focus is on international arbitration, be that commercial arbitration or investment treaty disputes. Though I still do a broad range of litigation work as well, but it's mostly before international courts like the European Court of Human Rights or the ICJ or the CJEU. And that's broadly the kind of work I do. I represent both sovereign states and private corporations, more often against each other. So yeah, that's my line of work, and yeah, I'm happy to take this forward now.
Yes. So just to ease into the conversation, Jaideep, so how was the Jindal experience for you? How was your time here at Jindal? What was your time here at Jindal like?
It was honestly the best 5 years I've had, in terms of just making amazing friends and colleagues and mentors and professors. And this is just broadly over and above all the academic work and all the other paths that you have to take in law school. It was fantastic. And and you realize this once you leave, that you really miss law school, and particularly having a residential campus. I think that's it's such a big learning curve, because you join at the age of 17 or 18 and you're there till about 22, 23, and it's really your formative years. And to have the kind of infrastructure and the support system that the university offers, they protect you from so many things that you find out much later. So broadly, that's the emotional and personal level of my enjoyment at JGLS. But apart from that, I mean, in terms of how I built my career through my experience at JGLS, I never had a very clear career path during my time at JGLS. I was quite open to everything, because those of us who come from, like, who do the 5 year course, we're pretty much out of high school or school. So you really can't make a hardcore decision that I will be a corporate lawyer, or I'll be a policy person, or I'll be a litigator. So my approach was to take it as it comes, do my general courses that were mandated by the BCI, have an open mind to everything that came across. We're very fortunate that at my time, and I'm sure even now, they had excellent professors. And so just kept an open mind. But obviously, you do tend to get bored from the classroom, so then extracurricular activities come into the play. And most of my colleagues at that time, it was either you were doing, and I mean extracurriculars within the academic sense. Of course, you have the dance and sports and stuff like that, but in terms of academic extracurriculars, we had debating or mooting. and mostly mooting was the way most of my colleagues and friends went towards. But for me, mooting just seemed a little, it seemed like going back to the classroom and spending long nights preparing memorials. So I never did any mooting during law school. The only thing I did was parliamentary debating for 5 years, and honestly, it was really helpful because it, instead of focusing on a deeper knowledge of an area of law, for example, if you do an investment arbitration moot, you're confined to develop your knowledge within that area of law, be it with research, be it with drafting, be it with advocacy skills, with respect to that field of law. But where parliamentary debating is purely developing your skill set to think on your feet. And I mean, just for those in the audience who wouldn't know how a parliamentary debate goes, it's you're essentially given a topic to debate 20 minutes prior to the debate starting, and you have 20 minutes to prepare with your team members either for or against a motion, and you have to deliver an 8-minute speech. And at the end of these six speeches, three members from each side, a decision is made. And I did that for 5 years in law school. I did it within Jindal debates. I mean, I represented the college outside as well. And I felt that that really honed a skill of quick thinking and working under pressure, and having clear articulation of your thoughts on any topic. It could be a legal topic, it could be a political topic, it could be even a funny topic. But it sort of developed that skill set that I felt that I could handle any situation that's thrown in the workplace, where you have to think on your feet, you have to articulate a strategy to your boss or to your team members, and you have to get the job done to the best of your ability. So for me, parliamentary debating was essential in developing that skill set, whilst you're also taking courses that are you're learning the foundations of the law. And as you move on through law school, you also have the option of elective courses, where you can focus in on not only what you want to do later on in your legal career, but explore other areas of law you thought were not relevant. So, for example, during my time, I did elective courses that were all contrary to what I went on to do later in a professional litigation. I did pure patent law electives. I did sociology and law based electives. I did criminal justice electives. And so I think Jindal gives you so many opportunities that you can take your time to explore, and but focus on developing some skill set which might be relevant in the profession. So that's my slightly long-winded answer of saying you can use all the resources the university has and have fun.
No, no, definitely. I mean, I think everything that you've said might resonate with some of the kids even here, studying here, or maybe the ones that want to pursue law here at Jindal. So,
Yeah.
what along those lines, only what factors should, these young kids take into consideration as, going for an LLM straight after graduation, or, what is the difference between that and after you have some work experience and then you're going for an LLM? So, what is the factors that you need to consider during that time?
Yeah, I think that's an important question, because I've had colleagues who have gone for an LLM right after finishing their 5-year course, or people I met during the LLM who had work experience for almost 7 to 8 years, and they were entering their LLM in their early 30s after being within their home jurisdictions, being mid to senior level lawyers. So I think to boil down the question is to ascertain the goal of your LLM. Like, is your goal to develop a deeper academic understanding in a particular field, or generally in law? For example, you have general LLM courses, or you have the BCL at Oxford, and you have various courses like that, or you have the hyper specialization courses where you want to specialize in IP law, in arbitration, or in tax law. So but I feel that in my experience, and this could be wrong, but it's more often than not, I would say a few years of work experience really goes a long way in equipping you for an LLM. And apart from the generic reasoning of if you have a few years of work experience, it's easier to find a job outside if that's your goal. I think apart from that, it's to be more comfortable in your skin during the LLM, as you will be surrounded by a lot of people who've worked for many years. And these are your batchmates, these are going to be your friends, your colleagues, and and in the slightly different way, they are also your competitors. And and it's important that you come with some level of work experience of working under pressure, working in an environment where you need to deliver results. And this can be anything. I mean, this could be within 1 year of practice, within 2 years, within 3 years, or 4 years. And I think that really helps you to be more comfortable in your skin at the LLM. This I mean The second factor is goes to the answer of asking what's the goal of your LLM. Now, if your goal of your LLM is that you want to find a job abroad, well, you need to first understand and know how it is. Why is it that you don't want to do a job within your home jurisdiction? Or whether you felt you've exhausted your resources, or you feel your particular area of practice is far better appreciated outside. And thirdly, to also sort of understand what you want to specialize in, because once you finish 5 years of law school, I can say that yes, my interest is IP law, for example, because I've done a couple of internships, and I've taken some elective courses, and I really want to deepen my understanding of IP law. Well, my suggestion would be, then you should work in an IP practice for a couple of years to ascertain whether you would really enjoy, you know, the profession in and of itself. So my suggestion would always be that you work for a little bit. And I've also had colleagues who've worked in, for example, they worked in pure litigation context with a law firm or litigated, and then done a master's in a completely different specialization, because working has made them realize that they don't want to specialize in a particular field, and then they want to gain a deeper academic understanding of another field that's extremely relevant to them, and there might be some sharing of skill sets, so they want to migrate to that area of law, and they want to experience that outside. So I always feel that working, just even if it's for a year or 2 3 years, is probably the way to go. And also, on the other extreme is, if you worked for too many years, like I would say plus 5 years, it's not that it's not possible or that you won't be a success during your LLM, but I feel that if you want to start an international career, and this is something I realized much later, is that an international career in and of itself has its own gestation period. So you just, I mean, from my introduction, I worked for 3 years as a litigation associate in Delhi. That I did my masters, and then I did two internships. So you have to understand that you don't effectively start from scratch, but you have to give a year or a year and a half of being a trainee or being an intern in an international market. So if you worked for too many years, you wouldn't be as comfortable to participate in that gestation period for an international career. So giving yourself that flexibility of doing an LLM when you're in your mid 20s still gives you that flexibility for a couple of years to try and develop an international career.
So, Jaideep, since we're along those lines only, since you worked also and you've done internship after working full time as well. So, what is your take on these two as people gaining experiences? So, as you already know, Jindal in its coursework has internships, mandatory internships that it needs its students to do to gain full access to their degree itself. So, what do you think there's a difference in the work environment when you're doing an internship and then you're working full time? So what is your take on that then?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a difference between interning and working full time, but it's a bit blurred. So for example, at least when you're in law school, and even I had these mandatory internships I needed to do, the fact that you're still in the middle of law school and you're interning, it's great to sort of just get the office dynamic or the courtroom dynamic experience, just the fact of waking up in the morning, showing up to work, delivering something, and heading back home. And just as simple as that, to understand how an office environment runs, I think it's very important. And I mean, during law school, I mean, it's weird. I suggest this now to friends and colleagues that do a broad variety of internships, but I never did that. I only did litigation internships because I think I just felt like, I didn't want to leave Delhi. So I honestly never, I think, had the opportunity to work, in corporate law or in any other thing. So I would just take an internship with a litigation firm and just go and enjoy the courtroom experience. But I would highly recommend people to not do that and try and experience differing things. I think now, at least during my time in law school, I think we didn't even have LinkedIn at the level it is now, where we never had access to these opportunities. So we would rely on the career cell at Jindal, or we would try to tap into our professors' networks, or literally go to every website of every law firm and see what can happen. But now, at least, I've been seeing on LinkedIn, like, people can do hybrid internships, people can do part-time work, people can be attached to certain clinics and centers even while they are studying. So I feel that now there's so many opportunities in different parts of the legal profession. I think it's fantastic. To answer the second part of your question, which is how it is to intern after doing a full-time role, well, the short answer is it's super weird, because you're like, you've sort of been a full-time permanent employee and then you are starting afresh. But the way to make you feel better about it is that you're not the only person in the same boat. Lots of people who are even partner at sorry, at major international law firms, and they've migrated to start a career in a new country, have more often than not started as a trainee and started as an intern somewhere for a couple of months or for a year, and develop that experience to assimilate themselves within the environment. And that time is also critical if you want to, say, be qualified in a particular jurisdiction. You can use your traineeship or your internship to sort of get on the same level as everyone else that you're competing with. So it's sometimes it's a blessing in disguise, and you can take your time to catch up to what's been happening around you in the new jurisdiction, because in India we have a comfort zone. We know that no matter what happens, we'll find something. We don't have any visa issues, so it's far more relaxed. But I think it's an internship allows you to sort of get comfortable in your jurisdiction of work, and then take the next step to become a permanent employee or get promoted, and then basically resume back from where you were when you left.
So, Jaideep, rolling over to your niche itself and what you're practicing in, that's international arbitration, right? So, what drew you to this specialization of law, and what advice would you like to give, young professionals or these up and coming students that are here at Jindal or anywhere across the world? So, what is something that you also wish you knew, like when you were starting out?
Thank you. Yeah, so I would say, first of all, to what drew me to international arbitration. So I practiced hardcore litigation in Delhi for 3 years. So this was, I was doing cases before the Supreme Court, Delhi High Court, tribunals. And then just in my first year of litigating, my law firm got a very big domestic arbitration, and I was kind of the only junior that was put on the case. And I essentially saw that arbitration through, I would say, a year and a half, and then the final award being delivered. So I could actually see the difference in which an arbitration is handled versus a general court litigation. Whereas a general court litigation would be that you work on the basis of a hearing. So you're working on, if my matter is listed today, what do I need to get out for my client? if I need to file a particular pleading. Things in litigation move extremely fast, whereas in arbitration, there is a certain level of attention to detail and a high level of scrutiny to each and every word that you orally plead or you plead in your argumentation in your written argumentation, and the amount of time that you are offered to argue your case and argue your client's case before an arbitrator in comparison to a judge. So for me, that was something I thoroughly enjoyed when I did an arbitration. I felt that, if I'm toiling away for many hours developing a case strategy, researching, making arguments, making legal arguments, making factual arguments, I felt an arbitration tribunal has far more scrutiny and appreciation of all the work that goes in comparison to a courtroom. Now, I speak from an Indian courtroom experience, and that's not to say that I have not been part of hearings where there has been intense scrutiny of cases and we've had a extremely long hearing. But more often than not, the regular course of litigation is that you're handling multiple cases every week, and you're sort of jumping and hopping from case to case. And for me, that was also fantastic because you're always on an adrenaline and you're always equipping yourself to do various things and litigate in various courts for various clients and having differing strategies and which senior to brief, how you should plead before a different judge. So there's a whole entirety of fun and enjoyment in litigation. But I really felt that for me to sort of develop argumentative structure in my pleadings, my level of writing, my level of engagement with a brief, I felt that arbitration gives you that, because you don't have the amount of volume of cases that a litigator would have. You have really high profile cases. This could be commercial, sorry, in the sense that it could be massive clients, large amounts of money, or in the field that I prominently practice in, very contentious political disputes where a state would be, like an entire country would be filing a case against, another state, or an investor, a big investor would be taking a state to court. And I felt just the implications and the big dynamics at play was super interesting for me. And but I wouldn't sit here and say that I prefer international arbitration to litigation. I would say that both experiences are very important, and your litigation skill set is, I think, invaluable to how an arbitration is played out. Because I mean, I often use this this analogy that an arbitration is like a litigation proceeding but with a magnifying glass, and that you really get into the details of each and every aspect of the dispute, and you have to flesh out your dispute, and you have a panel of arbitrators that are being paid to consider each and every argument you make. So, and it's highly rewarding as a junior on a case when you have structured argumentation, you have worked on a brief, you've researched, and you see that being critically analyzed by a decision maker. That's something for me that I really appreciated in arbitration. And I personally didn't have that opportunity too much in litigation, because time and again in litigation, I've prepared large briefs, briefing notes, pleadings, and then the matter never got called, and then I waited for a year and a half, and then it just fizzled out. And so broadly speaking, I think students should at least not try and jump the gun and think international arbitration is the way, and that's what I want to focus on. International arbitration is nothing but a subset of adversarial dispute resolution. So I would always suggest that if international arbitration is something that you find interesting, I mean, you first and foremost should just get experience of dispute resolution, do litigation, join a disputes chamber that even does arbitration. And international arbitration is more of a legal term. At the end of the day, even if you're working on arbitrations which are ad hoc in basis and which are between two Indian parties, it's the same, because you're getting that same experience of a junior as you're drafting pleadings and you're having a panel of arbitrators sitting in a room and you know that they will consider your case on that day, and they will inspect everything that you filed, and the opposing party will also scrutinize everything that you've written. So I have this funny anecdote that when I would draft a briefing note for a matter that came in the high court, and if I knew that maybe I might have made a mistake in the reference number of a page, more often than not, nothing will happen. It'll be fine. But in arbitration, you can't do that. So I feel that there is a level of detail that arbitration has, and it's honestly, you know, it's not like if you're practicing solely in international arbitration, you will not have a connection to what's happening in litigation, because it's not just in India, but across jurisdictions. More often than not, any international arbitration dispute you do has had some litigation pleadings prior to that, probably in the middle, and definitely at the enforcement stage.
So, Jaideep, along your professional life itself, you mentioned that you worked. I mean, of course, you worked in India before, and then you shifted to, working in US, Dubai, and then London. So, could you share how each and every place has a different, cultural practice, maybe of law? So, how was the experience for you? And in a professional way or in a personal way, also, just go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, this question is a bit difficult to answer because I did not work in, for example, if I just did litigation work where I was purely involved with the US legal system or the UAE legal system or the UK legal system, I would have been able to answer that as to how the legal cultures are. But because my work is across jurisdictions, so I was working with international arbitration teams across all firms. More often than not, the experiences were quite similar. So for example, when I was working at Three Crowns in DC, Three Crowns has offices in DC, London, Paris, Singapore, Madrid. Freshfields has offices in like multiple countries. And so what I would say is that in terms of the similarity between all three is just, I feel the level of detail and the level of, the expectations are very high at these firms for you to, deliver work that, and it's also, it reflects in the timelines you're given to complete work. So for example, if I mean, this is my experience in practicing in India, like if my senior has told me to draft a petition before a court, he would on an or he or she on a normal basis would give me maybe 2 to 3 days, and for a first draft. Whereas in an international law firm, within 2 to 3 days, you are expected to just deliver an outline of the draft. That's just the basic argumentation, because there is a different way of working where you really focus in on the argumentation and the structure, and there's a level of detail that goes into drafting items. So I mean, that's something that's very different in terms of that. Whilst the international firms have a lot of work, but the way the work is divided, the way things are done, there's a far more deeper element of brainstorming and the appreciation of various legal cultures that comes into being, and that's just the way they work. And there is it's very different from a fast paced Indian law firm, where a disputes law firm, and I only speak for disputes firms because that's where I've worked. And that's the first thing across all offices that I realized. Once you step into an international office and you're told to draft something or do some research, and you think, oh, I have to deliver this within a day or within a day and a half. That's not the expectation. The expectation is that you take your time, you think it out, and if you have any questions, you get back. And there's a long process. So for example, when I interned in DC with Three Crowns, I think we were working on one aspect of a dispute for 4 months. So that's the level of detail, because the disputes are such high value that you start to understand that it's definitely quality over quantity. And the second thing, and this is obviously more on the lines of cultural experience, I think that's the most important. I think I've, during my time in DC, Dubai, and London, I've had friends, colleagues, mentors from every continent on the planet, except Antarctica. But yeah, I've sort of had, amazing friends and colleagues, and there is a different relationship you have with people, that you simply meet them in a classroom, or you meet them at a party, or you meet them outside, versus actually being in the trenches with them, working together. Because you really understand the dynamics of how people deal with pressure, how they deal with situations, how they deal with positive news, negative news, a late night in the office, you know. So I've had the opportunity to build relationships with people across the globe, and that's so important, even for your general development in any international career, to at any given point of time have people to reach out in almost any country or any jurisdiction. If you have a question on law, if you have a question on any procedural aspect, and most importantly, if you want to travel, these are people who can really impact your personal and professional life. And that's an opportunity which, and I jump back to why pick an LLM, which an LLM gives you. It gives you that base. In just a couple of years, you can travel anywhere in the world, and you will know people, you will understand them, and you, because you've worked with them. And I think that's beautiful, and that's my biggest takeaway from working in, like, what, four countries now.
So, Jaideep, I would like to circle back to the challenges you've had along your journey. So, what all any other challenges that you would like to highlight, and how you overcame them, and what these kids also that are viewing this webinar should also expect from if they choose to pursue this kind of career.
Yeah, if you want to pursue this kind of career, there's it's 99% challenges and failures and 1% of success. That's a fact. And so first and foremost, I think when you decide to do an LLM and you go abroad and you try to look for a job, 99% of your applications are going to be rejected. And that's just the way it is. It's extremely, hard to compete with, people from various jurisdictions. And most importantly, and this is something I realized much later, is your language skill set. Because a lot of people who will be coming for this LLM speak fluent English, but they also speak another language that they can market. So, at numerous instances, at the very threshold, I've not been able to, even get past a recruitment process because I don't speak French, Spanish, Arabic, you know, German, various languages. So it is, you start realizing factors that limit you, which you didn't experience in India. Because at least for the students here who wish to study here, you're coming from a great law school, you have excellent professors, you're already at the top of the food chain in legal training. So you are already coming from a place of privilege. And that place of privilege sort of ebbs away once you move abroad, because you at times are having to demonstrate that you have an X factor, which you have to compete with. And in terms of other failures, particularly my failures, I think job application rejections, yeah, I mean, that's something which you just have to always think that a rejection doesn't mean that it's a reflection on you. And a funny anecdote I have for everyone watching is, I have actually got a job, I won't say where, after having been rejected by the job. And then I've been emailed back saying, no, please, sorry, we made a mistake, we want to take you back, we want to offer you a job. So don't take a rejection as a rejection. Take it as either a good riddance, it didn't happen, and I'll focus on something else, or maybe not right now, but in the future that will work out. And my personal experience of a failure, and this is something which really affected me, is when I was in the US, I sat for the New York bar exam. I was studying for the New York bar while I was applying for jobs. I didn't clear the New York bar exam. And, most of my colleagues around me cleared the exam. And this is a massive failure, that you would look to yourself and feel like, well, I couldn't even clear the exam. But honestly, like, that didn't stop me from, moving to another jurisdiction, getting a job there, and then using that same energy to qualify elsewhere. Because I would just say that, it's you're gonna have failures, and you just, if you can just stay focused and ignore the noise from people. And this is another anecdote. I think since 2014, when I joined law school, to now, I've never heard anyone tell me the market is great, you'll get a job. The market is always bad. I don't know when the market was last good. So everyone's gonna tell you, oh, don't do a master's, the market is very bad, you'll get nothing. Don't do the, don't do litigation, the market is bad. Don't do corporate law, the market is bad. Well, if the market was bad, then there would be no people surviving in this profession. So yes, there is a certain element of truth when they say the market is bad. I would say like focus on what how they substantiate that comment, of what aspects of the market are difficult to break into, and then work your way around it. So that's it in terms of failures and how to deal with them.
So, Jaideep, just to wrap up the whole webinar, what is one thing that you remember from your time here in Jindal? Something that some memory that you cherish, or any place here on campus that was like really dear to you, or something.
Yeah, I think so. There are two places, and I say two because I think one of them doesn't exist anymore. I think we used to have Nescafe and Juice and More on one of the terraces that were open, and now I think they're faculty offices.
I mean,
Uh,
Juice and More, and Nescafe have shifted, but they're still here. They're not in the same
yeah,
place,
yeah,
but
yeah,
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 in a different space of altogether.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm referring to the OG Nescafe and Juice and More on the terrace on a cold winter morning when the sun would be out, and we'd all step outside our classes and just meet the whole batch. And at that time, the batch size wasn't very enormous, so you would pretty much have 75% of your batchmates all and just simple things like when we were in second year of law school, and for the first time we had done a course on constitutional law or criminal law, and people are just stepping out of their classrooms and just having that debate and discussion. I feel that that's such a special memory, because those are your formative years where you're engaging with the profession, and you don't realize how monumental it is, because you are going to go on and practice in that field. And I really, I miss that interaction that I had. And the the second one is, of course, the flagpole area. I think that was just the meeting place of when you want to have some fun, or you want to just meet your friends, or just enjoy yourself. I think that's a great area, and we have such a beautiful campus. And I haven't visited campus after 2019, but I've been seeing the pictures and videos, and it's again totally changed, but it's still as beautiful, and the flagpole is still there. So
You should
that's one of.
definitely come during the alumni day that we have in January itself. So
Okay.
it usually takes place around 26th January. So yeah, you should definitely come to campus then. You can have a
Yeah.
whole experience of Jindal again, maybe a renewed Jindal. So as you
Yes.
know, like things keep on changing here, like every semester. So of course, you might
Yeah,
find
yeah.
a lot of change when you come back.
Yeah, yeah, that's there. When I was in college, we didn't have a food court in the first year. Then second year, we had an open food court. Then in the third year, it had a closed food court. And yeah, so I through my 5 years also, I saw the college change really fast. So I can just imagine how much it's changed.
So, Jen, thank you so much for your insights into your own profession and your own journey itself. And hopefully, people do reach out to you as a mentor also and seek guidance from you. And yeah, thanks once again for connecting with us.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed speaking about this, and for everyone out there, happy to connect, happy to speak. And yeah, as I just said, just ignore the noise, and everyone's doing fine. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there about the profession and about getting jobs, but I think if everyone just enjoys their law school experience, I think they'll be fine.
All right, Jaideep, thank you so much. Thank you once
Thank
again. Let's do this again sometime. If you want to do a phase two of this series itself, we will be happy to. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.